Pass Me By is a series following Ed, a reserved man living in a small town in Canada, dealing with early onset dementia and kind of about his past as a young man touring with the glam rock band in the 80s and kind of how that affected him as he grew up.
Yeah, we're taking this character who's dealing with a degenerative disease where they're losing their memories, and we became really interested in investigating what those memories are that are being lost, and particularly the stories that were never told.
We met in college. We both attended the Alberta College of Art and Design, and I ran an illegal artist residency program out of my studio space. And I ended up basically meeting Kyle at a friend's birthday party, and then from there, you were working on several different projects, and I just became more engaged with what you were doing, and the rest is history.
Yeah, we actually worked together on a proto version of this project where I started a early version of this story in college when I was in my last year. I was working on this little 20-page sort of exploration of a character that I dealt with before, and worked with Ryan a fair bit on that little project. And it was something where I had already built Ed as a character and felt really connected to him and wanted to know more about his story. So in the summer following graduation, I wanted to work on it more and brought in Ryan to help me, in particular with dialogue. And from there, we kind of just had a real creative chemistry that showed up, and a lot of passion that we both felt towards this project. Mm-hmm. And we sort of hit the ground running from there.
Yeah, it was just such an important exploratory time for queer identity and for our artist, how we wanted to grow as artists and creators. And I'm just so glad that we found each other and started working together.
Ryan and I approach our writing stage a lot like writing a script for a teleplay. We pass this Google document back and forth that we're writing as if we were writing a movie almost, and work really closely on that. I think every time that I have an idea for a scene, I pretty much come and talk with Ryan about the general idea of it before, and we kind of source out some themes and then start bringing in settings and conversations that we want to be having into those different dynamics. And from there, we have this script that I take and I work with that has a lot of cues. A lot of times Ryan will have sections from other books or works of art or films that I reference in the illustration that I do. And that's the collaborative part happens in our writing process a lot of spaces, and then I spend a tremendous amount of time in my home studio or coffee shops when that's an option, thumbing away through this. I think our next book is going to be 154 pages, so getting a lot of images onto that page.
Yeah, I like movies, so I wrote a lot of plays when I was quite young, and then from there I started watching a lot more films and talking to Kyle about the power in visual media and how we can use that to tell stories and narratives without using words. Mm-hmm. And from there we kind of found this ability to connect visual media and storytelling in a way that I think is really unusual.
Yeah, we definitely are very much rooted in cinema and literature and graphic novels, and finding things that you can do in sort of intersections of those medium.
I basically just say what I want, and you have to do it.
Sometime in my progress as through college, I discovered works by authors like Seth and Gillian Tamaki and Jeff Lemire, who I think is not drawing quarterly, but is also Canadian in it. There's this really, really rich school of, or not so much school, there's this rich body of folks doing amazing work in Canada that struck me as really different from a lot of the comics that I had been reading beforehand. It's had this everyday quality to it, this sort of really approachable sort of narratives that I found really captivating. I used to say that my favorite comics were the most boring comics, I think one of my favorites is still by Seth. It's called Clyde's Fans, and it's about a fan company that is going out of business when air conditioning comes around, and this character dealing with this idea of legacy with his family. And I really latched onto these deeply human stories that were happening that didn't need these sort of sci-fi elements or fantasy, even though I love those types of stories, it just really captivated me, these really grounded sort of narratives.
We watched so much. Sofia Coppola was a huge inspiration in just talking about, you know, coming of age stories.
Yeah.
That was a really major thing for us. And
yeah, we watched a ton of films. I don't know where I had the time to watch as many movies as we did when we were working through it.
So many films,
yeah.
And I just dragged you into it.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I first got the information, I was kind of skeptical and I was unsure about what exactly it meant. But I've been so impressed and so excited to see so many people engaging with a queer story that's also just not, like, it's a queer story about, like, an older queer elder, which I think so often we don't talk about, you know, older queer people as being important documents of time and kind of monuments of space. So I've been just, like, ecstatic to think that people are reading it and paying attention to a story that's not only so autobiographical about our own experiences, but talks so much about so many stories that I think get forgotten or not told. And also the illustration award was just obvious. That one I wasn't surprised about. When I heard that one, I was like, duh.
I was just very happy to hear when it came in. That's been a sort of secret desire of mine with this project. I've always kind of, like, I've talked about if this book was a movie, it probably wouldn't be a blockbuster, but I would really want it to make it through award cycles. So that was...
go through all the festivals.
Yeah, it was super validating, and especially when I feel like I grow so much through this project, stylistically and compositionally and...
As a person.
As a
fundamentally.
Person, yeah, fundamentally. So as I'm working through this, to have the first book receiving recognition like this, like, I know that that's just going to grow, and I'm really excited to see where things take us.
So well deserved. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Currently, I am taking a little reprieve from my work on our second book, Pass Me By Electric Vice, to work on a mural for the 2020 Bump Festival. My brother Derek Simmers was selected this year, and I'll be assisting him. But the big project that I'm very excited about is this marathon that I'm running in illustrating our second book. We are taking you back to Ed's past in the 1970s when he went on tour with a glam rock band. It's kind of a risk for us that I'm really happy that we're taking, where book 1 and 2 have very different feelings to them. They're transported through time and through age and through color palette in a way that feels like a different genre of book in a lot of ways.
I think that the second book is going to be a departure, but not necessarily a separation. I think it's an important story, and, like, we start with Ed as a much older man dealing with dementia and dealing with all of these different kinds of difficulties in his life, and also kind of silence, and then we show where this experience started from.
Yeah, and it's also opening up a space where book 1 is frankly a very melancholic story. We try to balance melancholy and humor and these human elements, but it leaves you with a heavy feeling in a lot of ways. And in book 2, we're trying to continue doing justice to the character of Ed and to continue to explore the joys and excitements. And there's definitely a lot of frustration and pain and these human elements that we love to bring in, but it's done in a way that has a lot of octane to it. There's excitement, there's fun, there's some steamy elements that I'm really excited for people to experience.
Octane, that's a big word.
Yeah.
Wow. I've been so impressed and excited about everyone talking about Ed and how much they've loved Ed as a character. And that was the thing that we wanted with the second book, and as we continue on going in the 5-book series, is that we wanted to adapt and show so much love for Ed and kind of explore the very human elements of him. I don't know. I'm excited to see how people take it. I kind of don't know how people are going to take the second book.
Yeah, like I said, it's a bit of a risk, bit of a departure. I'm not sure. I think that what people are expecting of book 2, we will give them later, but we're taking them on this little detour that I'm excited for.
They'll have a better ending, though, than the first book. we're sorry about the ending to Volume 1. I feel like people were really shocked by the ending of Volume 1 in the sense that it does seem so unfinished. And of course it's unfinished. It's the first in a series.
Yeah.
But again, we were kind of talking about it being episodic.
Yeah, it definitely, it had the effect that we wanted it to have, which was that it left people wanting more. And because the book is a pretty quick read, so people would get through it and hit that ending, and then like, no, it can't end there. It's just, and that's very much influenced by how we draw a lot from television and movies in our writing. And I think in that we were setting it up the way that you would with a movie that's coming out next year. However, a graphic novel takes some time, so there's, especially for those of us who joined on when it was the Risergraph series, they'll have an exercise in patience for the next book to come out and to have some of those answers.
The book after that, we always kind of knew what the story was, though. Like, we kind of knew the story that we wanted to tell, and we knew the narrative that we wanted to tell, because it is, again, so autobiographical, especially in regards to disease. Like, our experiences with those things, I think, are so important, and that's going to kind of transcend the book in a way.
Yeah, we set up the story arcs in a way that we left them open. We kind of wanted there to be room for us to... We knew that we were going to grow and change as people, and we wanted to be able to bring those new experiences into the book, so we left space for that. And I think that's allowed us to keep really true to the initial ideas that we had, while also still being versatile and flexible. This project happens through, like, a lot of different steps, but they all sort of came from us, and then through our community, through support through Kickstarter and places like Shelf Life, and then through publishing. And we believed in this project so much that everything else kind of just came from that. It feels very cliche to be like, have faith in your project and just do it, but that really is what has got us to where we're at.
I've always said that the book was run out of pure spite.
Yeah.
We were just like, no, it's time. We've got to get it. But in the end, I think the most important thing, and the one thing I want to tell to, especially queer people just wanting to write, living in small cities and prairies, is your stories should be told. You know, people are listening and they want to find out more about you. I don't know if there's a better way of putting it other than, like, you are important, your story is important, your experiences are important. And there's a space, and there's always going to be room for new stories to be told. And it's hard and it's difficult, but if you believe in yourself and you believe in the project, you have to fight for it. Good luck.